a Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show. We're going to be talking about the safeties for the 49ers. Some more big decisions, because not often that you get one of your starting safeties that are going to be available through free agency. It happened last year. You thought you had Tarvarius Moore to be the guy that could bridge that. Of course, he goes down in OTAs, and the 49ers end up bringing back Jaquiski Tartt on a very cap-friendly deal. So
extremely cap-friendly deal, and it was electric. It really, truly was. It was electric for the 49ers.
Light bulb just went off.
It literally just went off. Like, oh my gosh, we can have this guy back. That's absolutely incredible. It's great. And keep in mind that 2021 contract was extremely friendly to the 49ers. 1.127 million is what you ended up paying Jaquiski Tartt this past season in San Francisco.
Yeah, and his cap hit was only $987,000.
That is crazy. He had a base salary of $990K. He was making less than $1 million this past year. And that is bonkers.
Yeah.
That is absolutely bonkers. But let's talk. We got a couple of safeties that we need to talk about. The first one being Jaquiski Tartt. I mean, we might as well just stay on this since we're here.
I think he's the most important.
He's the most important of all of these guys. He's going to be 30 years old coming into the 2022 season. He's coming off of a fantastic season, a solid season. However, there's the big drop in the NFC Championship game. A lot of people, and I'm seeing a lot of people saying that drop sealed his fate. He should not be back in San Francisco. I think that is absolutely ridiculous for anyone to be thinking that or to be saying that. One play shouldn't be defining a career. And I'm sorry, with what D'Amico Ryans likes to do in his secondary, having both guys being able to kind of hybrid off of each other and play off each other. They're yin and yang off each other in terms of being able to come down the box and fit and run fits, being able to play the deep third, play the deep half of the field. I think it'd be silly for the 49ers to not try and bring this guy back in, because I don't know how big of a market there's going to be for him. There are a lot of names out there that people like. Marcus May, Marcus Williams, Tyrann Mathieu is going to be available this year, as well as Anthony Harris, Keanu Neal from the Dallas Cowboys. As well as Jabril Peppers, a younger guy who, he's kind of a name that people like a lot. Xavier Woods also available in free agency this year. I'm not a big fan of Xavier Woods.
Only in the New Day.
Only in the New Day, indeed, Ant. Only place. Jaquiski Tartt feels like there may not be a market again this year for him. And if there's not a market for him, the Niners might be able to bring him back on a cheaper contract yet again.
I think the 49ers should make themselves the market for Jaquiski Tartt. Jaquiski Tartt played very well this year. We're going to let that one drop of an interception define his entire season. I'm really glad that those people are in the GM of the 49ers, because you don't let one play like that define a season, define a career, and define if you want a player back. And the flexibility that you got with him and Jimmy Ward to be able to do everything that they did, you could trust them to play in those positions. We know Jaquiski Tartt can't stay healthy, and he kind of alluded to the fact he was dealing with some injuries at the end of the season, but he powered through and he was on the field. I think Tartt is somebody the 49ers have to look to interested in bringing back. Question is going to be Talanoa Hufanga. What is Hufanga's development? Do they believe Hufanga is the guy that can take over? Because if they believe Hufanga can play at Tartt's level or better than Tartt next season, then it changes things. Because then you have to look at the fact that Hufanga is cheaper, and you can move on from Tartt. You don't have to pay him that $1 million, which will probably be more than that. You probably have to pay him more than what you paid him last year. I think he deserves that. So I think it comes down to Hufanga's development, but I also think that I don't think Hufanga can play as good as Tartt next year. I think Tartt showed himself to be one of those guys that's towards the upper part of this safety group, and I'm talking about in the NFL. I think he's a really good player, and I think the 49ers would like to have him back, but it's all going to come down to the money. What money is it going to be? It's going to be between money, value, and Talanoa Hufanga's development.
Correct. And look, a guy like Jesse Bates and Tyrann Mathieu are going to be the guys who set the market this upcoming season. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. The Bengals are not going to be moving off of Jesse Bates in any way whatsoever, shape, or form. He's going to probably get a Tyrann Mathieu-esque contract where he's going to make something somewhere close to $14 or $15 million. They're going to pay him as much, if not more, than that defensive end out there in Seattle in Jamal Adams. And rightfully so, because Jesse Bates has won hell of a safety for the Cincinnati Bengals, and he's just a mere 24 years old, going to be turning 25. So they're going to be locking that guy up in the secondary. That's going to be the kind of the market set of what guys are, and especially in terms of coverage guys. Jesse Bates is up there. You got to be thinking that with Jaquiski Tartt, you could probably sneak in around that $3.5-4 million range and be pretty comfortable that no one's going to probably pay more than that.
I think you would think that. I mean, that's the question. You just don't know. There wasn't no value for him last year. But I think a lot of that's injury concerns. But I think people seeing how good he played this year, I think he would like to come back to the 49ers. I think he likes playing, for this team, playing with Jimmy Ward. But we're not going to have to worry about paying a high-priced guy. So get the Tyrann Mathieu. Anyone that's thinking Tyrann Mathieu is an option for the 49ers, I've seen that.
Unless that man wants to just be a mercenary, come in for 1 year to try and win a Super Bowl. That's the only way it happens, and I don't see that. He's 30 years old.
Have you met the Honey Badger? The Honey Badger needs it. He needs that money. He's not. I mean, Tyrann might do that, but the Honey Badger, no, he needs it. He's gonna have to get that bag, and so no. We already have one high-price safety in Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward is the guy we pay the most in the secondary, and so I don't think we're going to pay a lot. We just don't pay our corners a lot of money. We don't pay our safeties a lot of money besides Ward because of the flexibility that he gives. The guy next to him is going to be determined by, like I said, the financial situation and Hufanga. If Hufanga is ready to take over, they're going to move on from Tartt.
Bye, Jaquiski Tartt.
Yeah, they'll move on from Tartt. If they believe that Tartt can still come in and beat him out, they'll bring back Tartt.
That's all you can do, Ant, and I agree with you there. It's really going to come down to Talanoa Hufanga in terms of what Jaquiski Tartt's ability is and availability is for the 49ers and how much they're willing to pay him. I think even if they think Talanoa Hufanga is ready, if Jaquiski Tartt isn't going to command a whole heck of a lot of money, they still might bring him in just because of depth and what you could do. And now you have the flexibility for your D'Amico Ryans when teams decide to go nickel and you have to go dime, you could roll 3 safeties out on the football field. We've seen him do that. But another guy the Niners are going to be at least considering and looking at, Ant, is a gentleman named Tarvarius Moore. I don't know if many people heard about him or remember this man. This man had an interception in the Super Bowl just a couple of seasons ago. He's coming off of a pretty severe injury, and it's pretty not good situation for him. But this is a guy coming into this season that you and I thought was not only a lock to be the 53-man roster, but could push for the starting job, especially if Jaquiski Tartt was dealing with injuries, and then Tarvarius Moore himself goes down and starts dealing with an injury, which is unfortunate. There is not going to be a market for this man. I think you and I both can acknowledge and agree that there's not going to be a huge market for Tarvarius Moore. Could he be an option?
Yeah, I think he is an option. I think in the 49ers' perfect situation, they bring back Tarvarius Moore to roll with Jimmy Ward and Talanoa Hufanga. And that's their safety room, of the 4 guys that are going to be active every single week. Tarvarius Moore has proven that he can play opposite of Jimmy Ward and bring that flexibility. He has the physicality to play in the box, not to the level that Jaquiski Tartt does. And the crazy thing is you would think Tarvarius Moore would be a better cover guy than Tartt, but actually the numbers don't say that. Actually, Jaquiski Tartt's a little bit better in coverage.
True.
So Moore's got some improvement that needs to do, but he's a guy that they've been developing. They've been working with. They've figured he was going to be the eventual starter. He has the flexibility that Jimmy Ward does because he can go play in the slot. He can go cover someone if you're in a dime situation. In fact, against Kansas City in the Super Bowl, like you were talking about, that he was a part of that 3 safety look. So imagine a defense where you could actually use all 4 safeties throughout the game, taking their best attributes and using them to your advantage. I think it's something the Niners could think about doing. And you're right, it's probably going to be a lot cheaper than it initially anticipated. So if you could bring him back, especially on like a 1-year prove-it deal at $1 million as he gets over his injury, I think that would be nice for the 49ers to do.
I agree with you, and I think it would be absolutely great for the 49ers to do. It kind of just makes sense for the 49ers to do. This is just one of those situations where if you're the 49ers, he's coming off of the big injury. Yeah, it's not necessarily the greatest situation, especially since you're trying to move away from injured players. But this is the only injury he's ever dealt with. It's the only serious injury he's had since being in San Francisco and even dating back to his college days. So this isn't a guy who typically has things like that happen. This could just be a fluke sort of issue. So you may take the chance and roll the dice here because it's going to be a cheaper option. And there probably isn't a huge market for a guy like this. I mean, it's just the reality of the situation. We're going to see what's going to happen. We're going to see if that is actually the case and something the Niners would actually do. I would be shocked if it didn't happen.
Yeah, I think so. I think they would like to bring this guy back. I think it was crushing when they lost him in OTAs. I don't think they really wanted this to happen at all because I think they did envision a secondary that featured him opposite of Jimmy Ward. And that he was going to be the guy that was going to start opposite of him. And when the injury happened, then they had to pivot, and of course, Jaquiski Tartt was a godsend because he did a lot of big things for the 49ers this year. And him in the run fits is fantastic. Him and Jimmy Ward give you so much flexibility on defense, and I believe they actually help unlock this defense's capabilities. They can cover deep. They can play around the box. Those type of players aren't everywhere, and sometimes it's not the big flashy names that everyone gets to know, but these are the guys that make the gritty plays that you need. And that's what you need from this defense. It's kind of the attitude of them, right? You just put us out there. No matter where you put us, we're gonna use our skill set to be the best that we can be, and we're just gonna stymie you. We're gonna play a tough defense, and I think these guys are kind of the catalyst of that.
I would agree with you there. I think that is 100% the case. You have the Jimmy Wards of the world. If you're able to bring back Jaquiski Tartt and not have to pay him, too much more than what his big number was a few seasons ago, where he was making about $4.5 million a year. If you're able to get him for that, $2.5-3 million range, maybe a little bit more, getting into that $4 million range, it's not the end of the world. It's not. It really, truly isn't. And you and I have been looking at a lot of the cap stuff, and we'll get into it when we get to some of these other positions and other people. But there are some guys that you could restructure and free up even more money. So that's, if you have to give a little extra for a Jaquiski Tartt, if you have to give a little bit extra for Azeez Al-Shaair, it doesn't end up being the end of the world for the 49ers. So, there are a lot of cap gymnastics that Parag can do. But there's another guy, too, a veteran guy in Tavon Wilson that is also a free agent. I don't think this is as much of an option for the 49ers. I think the Tavon Wilson signing was a depth thing that you added in because you lost a guy like Tarvarius Moore. If you're able to bring a guy like Tarvarius Moore back, you're able to bring Jaquiski Tartt back, and you have Tartt, Moore, coming in with Talanoa Hufanga and Jimmy Ward, I think the Niners would rather go into training camp and bring in a couple of other young guys or some practice squad players at that spot that aren't going to eat up as much money as someone like Tavon Wilson would eat up.
Yeah, exactly. I think you do go young, and I think you maybe go through the draft or undrafted free agents. This could be a year the 49ers draft a safety. You got, the aging Jimmy Ward, aging Jaquiski Tartt, and then you just, you roll with it, and you see what you can get out of it. You've already gotten a Talanoa Hufanga, and you know what kind of player he is, so maybe you're looking for the opposite, right? The yin to his yang. So I think that they'll look at in every avenue, but Tavon Wilson is still a veteran presence that if you need him, you can bring him in. I just don't think he'll be high on the priority list. I think the other four guys are guys they would rather have. So bringing him back, they could do it. But I think it'll be more so, hey, if Tartt leaves or if Tarvarius Moore leaves, then they reach out to Tavon Wilson. And I think even then they'll look at other options because I don't think, even though Tavon Wilson's a good guy, the fact that he wasn't able to get on the field very much this year, even though at times they were needy at safety, is not a good sign because you were going, also to you're going to DJ, Dante Johnson. You were putting Dante Johnson at safety, not Tavon Wilson because he wasn't healthy. You were running with Gerard Wilson out there because he wasn't healthy. So I think that even a Dante Johnson would make more sense as another safety for the 49ers other than Tavon Wilson. So I think we might see the end of Wilson. I think if they got into a pinch, they would call him. But I definitely think they're ready to move in a different direction.
I would agree with you there. And we've also talked a lot with the 49ers about the flexibility of having guys who can do multiple things. Having a Deebo Samuel and who's a wide back, affording you the luxury of having a running back and a wide receiver at the same time. Now, there's a couple free agent guys who can accomplish the same thing. A guy like Dante Johnson who is that diverse, who can fill that many different roles and wear that many different hats in your system affords you the luxury of not having to hold on to additional safeties, which means you can pay less money for your safety room overall by not having a guy there and having someone in your cornerback room who can fill in at safety if need be in an emergency situation, play in the nickel in the slot in an emergency situation, and roll on the outside if your young guys aren't developing and doing the things you need to do. They can afford the Niners some options, some ability. It also opens up roster spots otherwhere on the team that you can deepen, you can go after, be aggressive. So we're going to see what happens. But I think the type of scheme and system that you have right now in place, we know there's a couple of positions in the 49ers that you can the Niners are going to be willing to sacrifice, maybe not having the big name or paying a lot of money for those positions, and building out the roster in other ways to continue to have success. Number one is the guard position. Both guard positions, while they are important that you have someone there who can do what you need them to do, it doesn't have to be a world beater. It doesn't have to be someone you have to pay extreme amount of money for that to be the case. Number two, we both know this, is the cornerback position. You don't have to have all pros on the outside to get to a Super Bowl. The Niners have shown that. We had Richard Sherman, but Richard Sherman wasn't making a lot of money, and Richard Sherman wasn't all pro Richard Sherman at that time when you had him, and you got there with an undrafted guy and Emmanuel Mosley playing opposite of him. And then number three is the safety position. The safety position is not a position where you need all pros. I think you and I believe you have a You have two guys in Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tartt who are, when they're healthy, are very close to being Pro Bowl caliber guys, but they're not going to be all pro guys. They haven't shown that yet. They don't have the stats and numbers to back that, but they're not just serviceable, fantastic. And we've seen Jimmy Ward's leadership all season long for this team. I think the combination of him and Jaquiski Tartt is very good for the secondary. I think it's very good for this defense. I think it's almost a stabilizing presence. I wouldn't say that Jaquiski Tartt is a must re-sign, especially if Talanoa Hufanga is developing and continues to go the direction we think he could go. But gosh darn it, right now he feels very important.
Yeah, he does. I think they should re-sign him. I think his play has proven that, and the extra things that he does that people don't notice, because everyone always looks at the turnovers or the pass breakups, but the way that he played around the box and the way that he was able to make tackles in the open field, and all those things are things that Tartt did well this season. And when they asked him to play special teams, he played special teams.
High level, too.
Yeah, high level. And you can never, take into account how much experience matters as well. You got a guy that just understands concepts, understands where he's supposed to be. Those things are very pivotal for a football team. And the leadership role that he started to display throughout this season, the way he rallied to have his teammates back, I think they're going to want him around. And like I said, I think the perfect situation is Tartt to be back starting, Hufanga to marinate one more season, see more action than he saw the previous year, and then for Tarvarius more to see some action as well. Those four guys, being able to use them in a multitude of ways, I think can give the 49ers the best chances. And I think that's what you need from the safety position. Those four guys doing the things that D'Amico Ryans wants them to do.
I don't think the safety position was the problem, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Don't try and fix it. Try and, rebuild this thing. Try and keep it intact. Try and give Talanoa Hufanga a little bit more time, and if you really feel like you need a little bit more out of that room, you can go find somebody in the draft. You can go try and hit another 5th round draft. You can try and hit on a 3rd or 4th round guy coming up this year in the draft, and add some depth and some stability to that room. I think the best option for the 49ers, especially once you move off the Jimmy Garoppolo contract, is just that. Find a way to get Jaquiski Tartt back in here without having to break the bank in order to do it. And I think you and I both believe that you're not going to have too much trouble having to break the bank open to get Jaquiski Tartt back. There are a lot of big name safeties available in this upcoming draft. And while, yes, there's teams like the Cincinnati Bengals who are going to be able to resign their big name guy to a big contract because they have the most salary cap of everyone in the league coming into the next season, there are teams like the Chiefs who don't have that much space, and a guy like Tyrann Mathieu becoming available. Does Mathieu want to get paid? Does the Honey Badger need to make money, Ant?
Yep.
Or does he want to go try and win a Super Bowl and take a little bit less? I think he's going to try and find that balance between the both, potentially, but he's going to definitely want a contract that accommodates him accordingly, which means that takes Jaquiski Tartt off the market of teams who are looking for starting caliber safeties, because the team may feel like if we can get a Tyrann Mathieu in here, that's a building piece for the next 4 or 5 years. We can start building a defense and start competing and contending and getting to the playoffs. They're not going to be looking at guys like Jaquiski Tartt in order to accomplish that,
right.
Which means his value slowly, as time progresses, it slowly starts to dwindle. He becomes even more and more available, and if you're the Niners, you could pounce on that and benefit in a huge way.
Yeah, I agree. What I disagree with is the Tyrann Mathieu, because I don't think you understand Tyrann Mathieu's ability to become the Honey Badger.
No,
See, he's not going to find balance, because he believes if you give him the most amount of money, just him being on the team makes you a Super Bowl contender, no matter who you have. Your Jacksonville Jaguars, you put Tyrann Mathieu in that defense secondary.
You're going to the playoffs.
He believes it. That's just who he is, and that's part of the reason he's so good. But yeah,
Honey Badger,
I think that there being a strong market, for safeties is
huge. I mean, there's so many.
It's going to benefit the 49ers. Now, there will be teams that are going to be out there, especially teams that are built that are close, that are one guy away. They're going to be looking to lock up veterans and bargain basement veterans. 49ers are going to have to compete with them. Those are the guys who are going to want more. Those are the guys that are going to want Tartt.
Rams.
Yeah, especially the Chiefs, right? They'll be looking to replace Tyrann Mathieu.
And Sorensen.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, those are guys you have to watch. Now, I don't know if they're going to be able to lock up our guys. We'll see. The Chiefs flirted with Trent Williams last year. 49ers were able to win that battle. Let's see if they can keep them away from our safeties this year.
Stay away, Kansas City. Go do your own thing. Don't be taking our safeties. You don't need any. You don't need anything from us.
Yeah.
Go find someone in the AFC to poach. Try and poach Jesse Bates from the Cincinnati Bengals.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that, indeed, man. I don't know how anyone is. That is the one team. Like, I haven't paid any attention to Cincinnati Bengals. That is the one guy from their team, though, that I knew was becoming a free agent that I was convinced 100% is a lock. He is being re-signed. I don't think there's any way they're moving off of that guy.
Yeah, unless somebody throws more money than they're even willing to give him.
Someone's going to have to throw like 16, 17 million in order to make that happen. And who knows?
You never know.
Maybe it'll be the Seattle Seahawks. Maybe they're like, oh, crap, we got a DN. Now we need to get ourselves an actual safety, and they'll
move Jamal to linebacker.
They'll quadruple up there. Yeah. Who knows? Cutback crew, though, let us know what you think about the safety room and the 49ers free agents at safety. Do they need to bring back Jaquiski Tartt, or is it bye Jaquiski? It's time to roll with Talanoa Hufanga. You know what? You can bring back Tarvarius more for a year. That's okay. You know what? Sign Tavon Wilson for one more. It's fine. But Jaquiski Tartt's got to go. Or do you think Jaquiski Tartt needs to come back next year? We want to hear from you. Leave it down in the comment section below and let us know what the contract should be as well. And while you're doing that, don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell because we still have more free agent content to discuss and go over, and you don't want to miss any of it.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more conversations to have, but this is one of the big ones. What is Tartt's value? I wonder what the fans believe Tartt's value is. I know we value him from what we see on film, but I want to know how everyone else sees it. And Tarvarius more. I think everyone was high on him going into last season. Are people still high on him? So interesting conversations to be had, and I'm just interested to see if people believe the same way we do. That you know what, for the right amount of money, let's bring Tartt back.
We're going to find out. We're going to see what is in store for this 49ers team. We're going to see what's in store for the safety position. But until the next time, Cutback crew and the faithful, stay safe.
Remember, the right way
is always the 49ers way.